Have you ever stood at the foot of a mountain and felt that pull? That quiet whisper on the wind, promising something more? That's where our story begins. Not with a map or a compass, but with a promise. A promise I made to myself a long time ago. A promise to climb, to explore, and to discover not just what was at the summit, but what was inside of me. This is the mountain promise. It all started with a photograph. A faded, old picture of a peak I didn't know, with a person I barely remembered. My grandfather. He was young, smiling, with the world at his feet. Tucked into the back of the frame was a note in his handwriting. The best views come after the hardest climbs. That single sentence became my mantra, my reason. I had to see that view for myself. I had to understand what he meant. The mountain in the photo was Mount Althea, a beast of rock and ice, notorious for its unpredictable weather and challenging ascents. It wasn't a climb for the faint of heart. The locals called it the silent judge, because it tests every fiber of your being. So, I began to train. My life became a cycle of early mornings, heavy backpacks, and endless stair climber sessions. I studied topographical maps until the contour lines were etched into my memory. I learned about weather patterns, emergency first aid, and how to tie knots that could save my life. Every day was a step closer, but doubt was a constant companion. There were moments I'd wake up in a cold sweat, the sheer scale of the mountain overwhelming me. Voices of friends and family echoed in my mind, a chorus of concern. Is it worth the risk? They'd ask. What are you trying to prove? The truth is, I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone but myself. I needed to know if I had the strength to honor that promise, to follow in the footsteps of a man I admired. Finally, the day came. Standing at the trailhead, the air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. Althea loomed above me, its peak shrouded in a thin veil of clouds. It was even more intimidating in person. The first few days were a lesson in humility. The trail was relentless, a steep, unforgiving path that seemed to go on forever. My muscles screamed in protest. Every step was a battle against gravity and my own fatigue. One afternoon, a storm rolled in with terrifying speed. The sky turned a bruised purple, and rain lashed down, turning the trail into a muddy river. I found shelter under a rocky overhang, shivering, soaked to the bone. In that moment, alone and cold, I truly understood the mountain's power. It wasn't just a physical challenge, it was a mental one. The mountain didn't care about my plans or my promise, it just was. And I had to adapt or be broken. As the storm passed, a rainbow arched across the valley below. It was a breathtaking sight, a moment of pure, unexpected beauty. That's the thing about the mountains. They take so much from you, but they give back in ways you can't imagine. I met other climbers on the trail, each with their own story, their own promise. We shared food, stories, and encouragement. We were strangers, yet we were bound by this shared experience, this unspoken understanding of why we were there. We were a temporary family, forged on the slopes of Althea. The higher I climbed, the thinner the air became. Each breath was a conscious effort. The world I knew, with its noise and distractions, faded away. Up here, it was just the rhythm of my own heartbeat, the crunch of my boots on the gravel, and the vast, silent expanse of the sky. The climb became a moving meditation. My thoughts cleared, and all that mattered was the next step, the next hint. On the 5th day, I reached the final base camp. The summit was now tantalizingly close, a jagged crown of rock against the deep blue sky. The final ascent would begin before dawn. Sleep was impossible that night. A mix of excitement and fear churned in my stomach. I thought about my grandfather. Was this scar it? Did he doubt himself? I looked at his photo again, his confident smile seeming to offer encouragement across the decades. The final push was the hardest thing I have ever done. We climbed in the dark, our headlamps cutting small circles of light in the immense blackness. The cold was biting, seeping into my bones. My body was screaming at me to stop, to turn back. But then I looked up. The first light of dawn was breaking, painting the eastern horizon in shades of pink and gold. The stars began to fade, and the world below slowly came into view. That sight gave me a new surge of energy. I pushed on, my movements becoming almost automatic. And then, I was there. I pulled myself over the final ridge and stood on the summit of Mount Alcea. I had made it. The world unfolded beneath me, a breathtaking panorama of peaks and valleys stretching to the horizon. I was standing above the clouds, on the roof of the world. There were no crowds, no applause, just the sound of the wind and the pounding of my heart. I pulled out the old photograph and held it up. The view was the same. In that moment, I felt an incredible connection to my grandfather, to the past, and to the mountain itself. I understood what he meant. The climb wasn't about conquering the mountain. It was about conquering the doubts and fears within yourself. The view was incredible, yes, but the real reward was the journey. It was the person I had to become to get there. The mountain promise wasn't just about reaching a summit. It was about showing up for yourself. It was about finding the courage to take that first step, and then the next, and the next, even when it feels impossible. It's a promise to keep climbing in every aspect of life, because the best views are always waiting for those who dare to try. What's your mountain? What's your promise? Thanks so much for coming along on this journey with me. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures. Let me know in the comments what your next big climb is. See you next time.